They bought the brewery from Rolling Rock in Latrobe when Budweiser sold out. When Budweiser bought them, and then they started brewing Rolling Rock in Newark, New Jersey. But what they do is they do a lot of contract brewing. They make Rolling Rock. All the Rolling Rock you drink is brewed in that brewery. They also do a lot of contract brewing for Samuel Adams.
Yes.
And there's probably 5 or 6 other beers that they brew there. I think they're excellent brewers, and they do it.
They do a great job, and I'm not saying that.
But no, and that's what they do, and I think they do a great job. I think it's I think it's worth being commended for. The fact that they can reproduce everything to a T, it's great.
I mean, honestly, I don't mean to knock them because they're all craftsmen.
You're not.
They're craftsmen. I mean, they're doing a great job.
Yeah,
but what I'm saying though is
you're defining art with commercial production,
which also is a huge thing for me because I'm like commercial production and art. I mean, like commercial production can be art. I mean, it is art in a sense.
Well, they do such a great job at it. You know, you have to take your hat off to them.
Well, I have to wonder. For me, I think about like a brew hub or something. You know, like
brew hub.
For instance, like how many different companies do they brew beer for?
A lot.
So how, what I don't want to question the dedication of this company, of the people that are working there, because I have a feeling that maybe these people just really like making beer.
Yeah. I mean, well, also that might be the case.
Now they get to make all this other beer.
I have talked my way through this, and I think actually my problem is the disingenuous representation of a beer being from a certain location while it's actually brewed in a different location.
Well,
so let's say,
I'm with you on that, Mark.
Let's say,
I'm with you.
For sake of argument, no names.
Yeah.
A beer from Tampa,
right?
Yeah.
Brewed in North Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
You're not a beer from Tampa.
No,
that ain't Tampa
not
water.
Longer. No,
you're a beer from North Carolina.
When people walk into the Cork and Stogie, they want. What do you have local? What do you have that is semi-local or whatever? So there for a while we were handing this one beer out that we thought was made in the middle of the Keys.
Yeah,
and it's not.
It was disingenuous.
It's made in North Carolina.
It's made in North Carolina.
And they're from North Carolina, for instance. And it's like, so yes, I understand. We almost feel like we're lying, and we didn't know it.
Degrees, in particular with that one. It's smoke and mirrors.
Yeah.
There's other ones which I wouldn't say are smoke and mirrors. And there's a whole bunch of fine lines there. You know, there's another brewery from Tampa who doesn't brew and who a certain percentage of their beer because they've gotten too big for themselves.
Yeah.
And I'm not
that's
criticizing
a different problem though too.
I'm not criticizing. They're brewing outside of Tampa and through a contract brewer. The beer coming out of it is perfect because it's going to the exact same formula. In that case, what I'll say that the beer that they're brewing, the art form was the recipe. When they came up with the recipe, that was a recipe, and whether it's brewed in Tampa or brewed in Lakeland doesn't matter. It's the recipe, and that's the art form. The other one that we're talking about, and again we're leaving names out of it, but that's kind of like a smoke and mirrors thing because they're trying to say, hey, we're from here, but they're really from someplace else.
It's a little disingenuous.
Again, disingenuous. So there's a few beers down here in the Keys that are considered to be Keys beers that are not Keys beers. The only one that offers absolute transparency is actually Key Billy.
Yeah.
And
they come right out and say it.
They come right out and say it. I mean, and that's... And
that's honest.
I think I'm least likely to drink a Key Billy beer just because it's not my flavor profile. But I think that makes them more genuine for coming out and saying, hey, we're from the Keys, but the beers I made here because we don't have landscape for it. You know,
Yeah.
we just
And
don't
we
have the
came up with the
property.
recipe, and we hired somebody to make it for us.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they come right out and say it. But the thing with that I like is that they say, hey, you know what, we came up with the recipe and we have these guys making it for us because we don't have the capability
Yeah.
to do it.
Yeah.
I can live with that.
Yeah, I can certainly get behind that. You know, I mean, I'm like, you know, everyone needs a job.
Yep.
Everyone needs a job. Every economy needs
We have to make a living.
boost.
Yeah. And
You
then
know,
if-
and-
yeah.
and-
Brewing beer,
honestly-
that's pretty cool.
Well, yeah. I mean, and I'm not knocking the workers in the factories or the breweries or whatever. And I'm certainly not knocking the people that are making this option available to individuals that have good concepts, great ideas. Really, what it comes down to me is like contract brewing. If you're lying about it and I find out, I'm going to get mad. I'm going to
Sure.
be bummed out. I'm
Sure.
like, and
You know,
also, like,
It's the principle.
I'm Cowboy Mark, and you're listening to Key West Beer Tales, the sum of all beers.
Let's say it's 1962. I don't
Okay.
know what year it actually was.
Cool, but that's good.
But at one time, Budweiser only made Budweiser
Yes.
in
Yeah.
St. Louis.
Yeah.
And there was one year, and I don't remember the year. Let's call it 1962 because
Yeah.
I don't know.
Okay.
And so now we're sitting somewhere in a bar in Pennsylvania,
Okay.
and we're all sitting around a bar, all four of us. And we're sitting in a bar in Pennsylvania, and I order a Budweiser, and Mark looks at me and goes, "You know that's not really a Budweiser, don't you?" I said, "Why is that?" He says, "Because it's made in New Jersey now. It's not made in St. Louis anymore. It's not made at the brewery. It's made in New Jersey now. You're drinking New Jersey water." Is this the same conversation as we're having
related.
today?
It's related.
It's related.
It's related.
It's a really good point, Dave.
But I mean, like that's actually that's a very good point. I was talking about labor issues, but
Yes,
what you're talking
you
about
were.
is content issues. And now, so like again, if in no defense of anybody, I'm only using this because it's the only one that I know that is true. So Brooklyn Brewery, they found their off-premise brewery in Ithaca, New York.
Yeah.
So they make a lot of their beers in Ithaca, New York.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same exact water we get in New York City.
Okay.
So the water in New Jersey versus the water in St. Louis, I cannot vouch for either one of those being similar.
Well, here's
I mean,
the thing.
it doesn't sound like that's the case.
And-
but sorry,
Go
guys.
ahead.
Just
Finish
let me
what you're saying.
But what I was getting at was the American workforce and the individual's involvement in it. So I come from a brewing background, you know, like I homebrewed. I've been a part of breweries before, you know, like in very small level capacities.
It's all right.
I pushed a broom.
You're there.
But yeah, I mean, like you know, but I cared. But what I was getting at was like, so this individual person, are they invested? And
Yeah, I didn't mean to take away from that, Mark.
No. You didn't. But like, you brought up a very valid point.
Is anyone here familiar with the guy by the name of Fred Eckert?
Yeah.
Yeah, Fred's and he has been for 35, 40 years. He's been a great writer on beer. And I think it was Fred who, one of his publications years ago, who I read, and he was quoting a brewer who said, he said, you know, he was talking about Coors, because Coors' big thing has always been the Rocky Mountain water. And he was quoting a brewer who was just I think he was a home brewer. I could be mistaken, but I think it was a home brewer. But no, he wasn't a home brewer. He was an educated brewer. He brewed for a company. But he said, I could with the minerals and all that and his background, his educated background, he could brew a beer exactly like Coors using swamp water, because he would know the minerals to put in,
Yeah.
and what to take out of the water to make it that same quality.
Yeah. I see what
Were
you're
you,
saying.
were you here
yeah.
for that Abita story? Did you tell me the Abita
I
story?
told you the Abita
Oh,
story.
my
go ahead, do it
God.
again.
No. Okay, you should do it.
It was a story that I
It's
heard.
a good story,
It was
actually.
a story that
It's
I
a
heard
decent
from
story.
It's a good story.
an old guy from New Orleans that had the greatest Louisiana accent that you could. He said they used to, he said they used to take their buckets and whatever they had and went down to the Abita swamp and got their free water down there because that's the Abita water is just good old Louisiana swamp water. So that's
There
where
you go.
down at the end, and it was just trickling out, and that's where they got it. So I mean, it was just and I believe the guy.
I believe him, too.
I believe him. I mean,
I've seen it.
Well, the
Abita
point
Springs is Abita swamp water.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the point,
It's like the
the
water's-
point is that someone who's a very good or a master brewer will be able to add minerals and whatnot to the beer to the water to make it
Remove
any
and
type of
add
water
as-
that they want.
as-
The point is he could a lot of brewers do this in particular. When they're making a pale ale, they'll make their beer, they'll make their water the same exact chemical makeup as on Burton-on-Trent in England, which is the place where they consider to be the finest water makeup to be a pale ale.
Yes.
You have Bass, you have Double Diamond, you have there's like 3 or 4 different breweries that are
not Bass
made
in the
there.
States, but yeah.
No, not Bass in the
Original
States, no.
Bass.
Original
Yeah,
Bass.
Bass
no,
in
UK.
England.
But
the thing is also in the Bass in the States are changing their water when they brew the beer to be like that.
yes, the Pilsner that I've had from Colorado versus the Pilsner from North Carolina, the Mama's Yellow Pils, both in a can. I have a very dramatic palate when it comes to these things. I have not been able to taste nearly a vague nuance of difference. They
like
have
what we
done
were talking-
such a good job.
And now we have so many of the West Coast breweries are almost
Importing water.
You have Sierra Nevada, you have Boulder. There's a bunch of breweries that are now setting themselves up in North Carolina, and to drink a beer out of North Carolina, which is made, let's just say Sierra Nevada, which is made out in Washington State, and you can't tell the difference. It's because they're altering the water, which they have to do. I mean, that's just I'm not criticizing them. I'm admiring them. Hey, this is Key West Chris. You're listening to Key West Beer Tales, the sum of all beers. Yeah, we're at the Cork and Stogie, and it's been a rainy night, and it's been a beautiful night, and people have been driving by on scooters, honking horns. And in any case, we're going to cut it down tonight, and we're going to say we'll see you next week. Thanks so much. My name's Key West Chris.
I'm Dani Hoy.
I'm Dave Senior.
I am so tired, Cowboy Mark.
And we're at the Cork and Stogie, 1218 Duval Street.
Sunny Key West, Florida.
That's why we live here.
That's right.
Ha ha!
Thank you.
Cow!
Where's Dave Jr. when you need him?
Cheers, guys. Good night.
Cake off his toes in his
Cheers.
sleep.
Thanks so much. Hope you enjoyed the rant or the babble we've been.
Rabble? Bamble?
Hope you enjoyed the babble we've been babbling about
Babble,
tonight.
babble.
Danny's got to listen to it twice.
Probably
Possibly
more
than
4
understatement.
times.
No, like 4 to 12 times.
than the whole thing and just be like, oh God.
Shut up! Why don't they shut
Why
up?
don't they just shut up? You have to have the shut up paddle.
You've been listening to Key West Beer Tales, the sum of all beers. You can find our shows on iTunes and Spreaker.com. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and on Twitter at the KWBT. Also, drink along with us using the Untapped app on your smartphones. Email your ideas and questions to keywestbeertales@gmail.com. Thanks for listening. Cheers and beers.
I'm hungry. Let's go get something to drink.
You drunk.